I have two research interests. My first research interest is the role of emotional intelligence in the workplace. One of my current projects examines the situations in which people are likely to use their emotional intelligence for pro-social or otherwise positive ends. So helping their colleagues, helping to improve their own job performance, or otherwise benefiting the organization. And importantly, the situations in which even well-intentioned people might end up using their emotional intelligence for more antisocial, more nefarious ends. The vast majority of the existing literature has looked at the positive outcomes associated with emotional intelligence. Comparatively little attention has been paid to its dark side. So we want to know what people might be inclined to leverage their emotional intelligence for more undesirable ends, and what sort of circumstances might lead anyone to leverage their emotional intelligence for those sorts of ends. My second research interest is dissent. So why is it that people speak up against groups to which they belong? Not because they dislike those groups, but for the exact opposite reason. They really care about the group. It's an important part of their individual identity, but they're concerned that the group is doing something or is about to do something that might harm its reputation, even its viability. So the two basic questions my collaborators and I try to answer are, who's naturally inclined to do it? And what can we do circumstantially to make anyone more likely to do it? Because we know sharing a diversity of opinions is critical to group performance, to innovation, to a variety of positive outcomes. So again, who's naturally inclined to do it, and what can we do circumstantially to make anyone more likely to do it? Of course, I like to see strong grades on an application, and that could mean uniformly strong, or it could mean a positive trajectory. Some students, particularly at the undergraduate level, struggle with the transition to university, but as they get increasingly comfortable, that affects their performance. So you end up seeing a positive trajectory. So by the end of their program, they're doing very, very well. Obviously, strong test scores, whether that's the GRE or the GMAT. But what I think is particularly important, what I think distinguishes our strongest applications from very good applications, is the amount of exposure to research. As an undergraduate student, you often sort of read articles or book chapters, so you know the end product of research, but that doesn't give you any exposure to the research process. To the extent that you have been exposed, it helps you to understand it, and importantly, whether or not that is something you can envision pursuing in the long term. Is it for you? Apart from that, the more exposure you've had, obviously the more knowledge and skills you've developed to help you become an excellent researcher. And something that's perhaps less obvious is the signal value. That if you've invested a significant amount of time in research, so you've done an honors thesis instead of choosing an upper year elective, that honors thesis probably took more time, more energy. So what that suggests is that you're interested in, you're passionate about research. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to drive your success in any graduate program. As with any work, particularly intense work, if you're genuinely interested in, if you are genuinely passionate about the line of work, it seems much less like work, and you're much more likely to consistently perform to a very high standard. I think there's a number of reasons that should make Queen's University and the Smith School of Business in particular attractive to prospective graduate students. First, the obvious one, we have an outstanding group of researchers here. So we have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to help you advance your own ambitions in academia. And for my own area group, for organizational behavior, we have a really diverse set of interests. That means it's probably easier to find a faculty member whose research interests align with your own. And because we're aware of each other's work, we speak with each other, what it means is, even if a particular faculty member's research is quite different from the area in which you conduct your own, he or she probably has some insight, some information, and applies it, looks at the same issues through a slightly different lens to the one you ordinarily use. And I think that can really help to sort of enrich research. In addition, Queen's has a long and proud history of teaching. Of course, a graduate program is going to be centered on research, first and foremost, as it should be. But there are also significant resources here that are dedicated to teaching. At the end of the day, we want you to be a talented, productive researcher, but also a passionate and very effective teacher. And I think that's certainly possible with what we have to offer, both inside the School of Business and in the wider university. And finally, Kingston's a really nice place to live. It's a beautiful city. The downtown core is compact, so if you live here, it's very easy simply to walk to work. You're not going to be worried about cycling through terrible weather or stuck in traffic jams. So, as said, a beautiful city, and I think a city in which it's very easy to live.